can tell you people they were the devil's children.
Greetings from Castle Goring, from Mickey, Aurora, and from me. Well, a lot has been happening. I have a lot of ground to cover. Some royal, others even more important and relevant, and hopefully as interesting to you as it is to me. But before, we're going to start off with Harry, Meghan, and whether those two children were born of her body or they came by FedEx, the Stork, Pan American, long since out of business, but since the impossible happens every day of the week in Meganian and Herodian terms, why not? So Stacey says, also, Harry mentioned how much Archie had changed in 2 weeks. I think that baby Archie that was presented at the castle was a doll. The baby never moved and its face was barely shown. The real Archie was already 2 weeks old and would not have looked like a newborn at that point. Harry and Meghan thought they got away with the biggest con ever. It's a disgrace what they did. Stacey, that's your opinion. I see why you have arrived at it. An awful lot of people share it with you. I will make 1 or 2 points. Babies can sleep very soundly. There's not quite as radical a difference between a 2-week-old and a 2-day-old baby as long as it's bundled up and swaddled. So it didn't have to move. Oh, but I hear what you're saying. A lot of people think like you. And Harry and Meghan have only themselves to blame for people now coming to the conclusion that they perpetrated a massive con on the world. So I think it's called just desserts. I'm going to jump over this to the next one because it's more incisive. And then, yeah. Rob says, love your commentary, Lazy C. Thank you. Thank you. She either had a hysterectomy or she didn't. It can't be that hard to sort out. Somebody knows this. Her family, the ex-husband. The royal family should require a DNA test to determine whether they're lying or not. Wouldn't it be nice if Charles stepped up instead of letting them walk all over them? Not sure why it would end their marriage. Very elliptical. I will say that her brother, Thomas Markle Jr., has stated categorically that Trevor Engleson told him that she had a hysterectomy while she was married to Trevor. He has stated it. There's no doubt about what he has said, and he stands by it. Has Meghan sued Trevor Engleson? Has she sued her brother? I leave you with that tantalizing thought. Of course, Meghan is so unique that maybe she didn't need a womb to produce 2 children. She's gone one better on the Virgin Mary, because the Virgin Mary produced a child for God of her womb, and Meghan managed to pop out 2 without a womb, according to her brother. Tantalizing, no? Tantalizing. Silvana R.L. says, all this proves is that Meghan has outsmarted the late Queen and her dimwit son Charles. Meghan also knew they would do nothing because of their embarrassment of being outwitted. Bravo, Meghan. Well, Silvana, I have to say I see where you're coming from. And I remember when I was young and I would go to movies, I would often root for the bad guys to get away with their naughty actions. So I get it. If indeed what Thomas Markle Jr. says is correct, and I have no... Well, let me leave it at that. If it's correct, because I don't know why Trevor would have told him something like that, and then it wasn't true. So, if Meghan knew that she was going to be able to pull off the hat trick of this nature, because she genuinely wanted to have children who were in the line of succession, but didn't have the ability to produce them. What a hat trick she's pulled off. And she would have known that having done it, it would be so destructive once his family, Harry's family, found out about it, that, and if she executed it with the flagrancy and the unconscionability that a good overblown drama queen actress would bring to certain situations, that she would get away with it, and that there would be nothing they could do about it, especially if the children had validly recognizably legal birth certificates, and that they would automatically go in the line of succession. Well, certainly Archie automatically went in the line of succession. Brilliant. Brazen. But brilliant. I agree with you. She outsmarted the whole lot of them, and she, if indeed it's happened, and we need to qualify for legal reasons that this is all speculative and it might not have happened, but certainly something very untoward took place. And certainly her bumps and demeanour did not accord with what would be regarded as usual practice. Yeah, it would also show that people were dealing with a, a type of character that would have made Glenn Close want to up her ante and have the part as an even bigger bunny boiler than she did. But of course, this is all speculative. I make that point for legal reasons. Thracian Grapes says, "Dearest Lady C, you look absolutely gorgeous today as always in your basic classic black with pearls, my favourite combination. Thank you." That was the other day. I imagine, and I read these out, sometimes I don't, but often I do, because, I mean, really, to be 75 years old and having nice things like that said about one, it hopefully makes other women who are even younger than I am realize, well, it's worth the effort, isn't it? Because then the effort is recognized, acknowledged, and appreciated. And so is the compliment. I imagine that Meghan Markle is not very happy about President Donald J. Trump's new policy on abolishing all woke and DEI, that's diversity, equity, and inclusion to those who don't know, positions, especially within the government branches, especially because DEI has been Meghan Markle's favourite weapon since leaving the royal family. Yes. I understand that there are two very calculating, manipulative women in crisis at the moment, both actresses. One is Meghan Markle, the other is Blake Lively. One tear left eye Meghan, 3 tears right eye Blake. Poor darlings, my heart bleeds for them. Well, I do not believe in promoting people who are not capable. I think it's unkind. That's the first thing. I think it's unkind to them because they function beyond their capacities. So that means it's very stressful for them. That's the first thing. It deprives somebody who would do a job better of the job that that person could and should be filling. And I don't know that this will turn out to be accurate, but the Washington plane crash is being blamed in part for the DEI policies. Now, I think it's a little bit more complicated than just that, because the air traffic controllers across the board in the United States have been understaffed for years, especially in Washington. They have been overworked, the jobs are very stressful, there's burnout, and one of the air traffic controllers left work early, meaning that the air traffic controller who was left to do 2 people's jobs didn't only have to handle planes, but helicopters. Tragic. Then there's also what Trump has done in the last few days, is suspend the USAID program, and he wants to shut it down. Well, I could have told him that everybody knew abroad that it was a CIA operation. And I mean, everybody knew it, it was American bucks going to buy influence elsewhere. And this has now emerged, and Elon Musk has said it, and that the USAID program was sowing discord all over the world under the guise of assistance. He didn't put it quite like that, but that was the message. Musk has skin in that game because, being South African, he knows what's been happening in South Africa and in the African countries. Just as how I, being Jamaican, know. I mean, if you're a member of a Commonwealth country and you function at a certain level of society, you know these things. They are common knowledge in sophisticated and worldly circles. US aid has been misused. American taxpayers have thought that they were helping people all over the world, when it turns out that governments were being undermined, wars were being funded. And the latest thing to be coming out is the US involvement on a governmental level in orchestrating the downfall of the previous Ukrainian government, freely elected and representative of its people in 2014 under Obama. And what was her name? Something Newland or something, the CIA woman in Ukraine. There is also the fact that Zelensky himself has reportedly come out and said that 58% of the supposed aid, which actually isn't aid, it's a loan to Ukraine, has never reached them. My goodness, all those bank accounts in Washington and elsewhere. I wonder if some rich 103-year-old politician who's been pocketing all that money would like a wife for the last few days or weeks of his time on earth, so I can become a rich widow. I just say that for what it's worth. Ariana G says, Lady C, I saw your tweet on X today. So far you've avoided addressing that on this channel. Is there a reason why? Could you tell us what your bongo drums are saying? I was particularly struck by the hitherto unknown connection between the subject of It Ends With Us, Justin Baldoni's interest in protecting women against DV, this is YouTube, we have to use abbreviations, the Baha'i religion, and your portrait being painted in 1981 by the Baha'i Canadian artist Joyce Devlin to support the Chiswick Battered Women's Refuge. Well, to those of you who don't know, my bongo drums have been giving messages via X, Twitter. I recently started to go on it. I think I was already a member, but didn't know how to do it. And my son Dima said, oh, you really must start to do it. And it broadens one's horizons, and it means that I can cover a wider scope of subjects than I might be able to cover here. And so I thought, and I have friends in Hollywood, as some of you might know, and I get information from time to time. And I have been getting really interesting information about the Blake Lively matter. Now, 3 weeks ago, I had never heard of Blake Lively or Justin Baldoni. In fact, I think the first time I brought up the subject on this program, and I've touched upon it before. I think I called him something else Baldoni because someone corrected me. So that's how much I knew about them, because it's not my world, and quite frankly, I'm too busy to even look at movies that I want to look at, much less look at movies I don't want to look at. And it's not my world, and I'm not really interested in it. But I have become interested in it because actually shades of Harry and Meghan, because I wasn't interested in them either. The information has come to me. I'm sitting at Castle Goring, minding my own business, and the information comes to me. And I then realize, hang on a second, something really rather ominous is going on here. And I have a strong moral code. Ethical might even be a better word. And if I can do good and rectify or redress, let's put it that way, untoward balances, I think it's my duty to do it. I think it's everybody's duty to do it, actually. But I'm in a position to do it, and I'm delighted to do it. So I've started to post stuff on X about what I've been told about Justin Baldoni and Blake Lively, and it's outrageous what. And in the last few days, Justin Baldoni's legal team, they posted the timeline and the texts and an explanation, 168 pages, and the updated complaint, which really hangs Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds. Now, I had heard of Ryan Reynolds very vaguely, but if you put my back against a wall and said this was going to be my final minute on earth if I didn't tell you what Ryan Reynolds had been in, I wouldn't have been able to tell you. So I'd have been praying pretty furiously. So, well, it turns out that Justin Baldoni is a practitioner of the Baha'i faith. And it turns out that he has, and I should explain about the Baha'i faith, because I came to have an awareness of the Baha'i faith in 1981, when my portrait, which will be posted at the end of this clip that Ariana G is referring to. It was painted by Joyce Devlin, a very famous Canadian portrait painter who came over here, and I was asked, because now Queen Camilla does women who have, DV, let's stick to DV. In those days, no member of the royal family would touch it, but it was known in, shall we say, social circles that this side of my face was reconstructed 6 weeks after I was married, and it didn't happen by accident. So let's limit it to that and leave it at that. So I was asked if I would really to promote Erin Pitz's battered women's refuge in Chiswick if I would agree to have my portrait painted to promote the cause. So and of course in those days things were a lot less overt than they are now. And it was covered by the Sunday Times, and it got publicity for the refuge, and Erin Pitsey, who was a wonderful woman, and in fact, her first husband is then married a great friend of mine, but this was after all of this. And so I said, yes, I would do it, and I did it. And while posing for the portrait, which Joyce painted at my flat at 10 West Eaton Place, we would speak about the Baha'i religion, because she was a practitioner of the Baha'i faith. Now, the Baha'i faith is it's a fairly recent religion. It was founded, if I recall correctly, in the 19th century. It might have been the 18th, but I think it was the 19th century. It is originally Iranian, and ironically enough, a cousin of my father's, cousin Sophie, she was a Baha'i, but we weren't allowed to speak to Sophie about being a Baha'i because my parents thought it was too unconventional a religion. Well, it respects all faiths. It is very much about respecting other people, even if they're different from you, even if they are. It's about creating harmony where there is discord. It is about being empathetic, respectful. It's a wonderful, wonderful faith. And Justin Baldoni's parents were both Baha'is. His mother is Jewish. His father is from an Italian Catholic background, and both his parents are practitioners of the Baha'i faith. And he was brought up in the Baha'i faith. And his demeanor throughout this whole sorry saga shows to what extent he lives his religion. Also, the Baha'i faith is particularly interested in protecting the rights of others, including women, which is why he got interested in the subject matter of the movie It Ends With Us, which is, of course, about DV, and why Joyce came over from Canada and painted my portrait to raise funds for the Chiswick Battered Wives Women's Refuge. So, and what I was told recently is that Blake Lively, who I have to tell you, let me rephrase that. Do you see that picture behind there? That subject matter is Mordecai. It's from the book of Esther in the Bible. The face of Esther is Rembrandt's wife, Saskia. It's a famous subject. A version of this picture is in the Hermitage Museum in St. Petersburg. So Rembrandt's wife, Saskia, is Esther. The man in the splendid thing behind is Haman the Agagite, who was the Emperor Xerxes. they call him something else in the Bible, but I'm not going to call him that because it's an insult to call him something else when he was one of the greatest emperors of all time. And Mordecai, who Haman the Agagite has built a gibbet so that he can see Mordecai swing from it. But Mordecai appeals to Queen Esther, and Haman the Agagite is the one who swings from it. And that to me is a wonderful picture because it gives a wonderful message. It's not only a great painting, but it's a wonderful message. Very appropriate to these circumstances that we're discussing. Because, of course, of all the evidence that has been revealed, and it's there in black and white for everyone to see, Blake Lively and her husband Ryan Reynolds decided to hijack the movie. And she didn't even promote it as a DV movie, which is what it is about. She was busy flogging her wares, shades of Meghan, marching. And she got tremendous backlash as a result of this and tried to blame Justin Baldoni. But she had already hijacked his movie. He bought the book, the rights to the book. He wrote the script. He organized the production. He was a producer. He was the director. He was the male star. And she hijacked the movie with Ryan Reynolds' cooperation, so that they cut him out of his own movie. He wasn't even allowed to be on the red carpet with her at his own movie. It's a disgrace. He was put in a holding storage area downstairs with his family and friends, surrounded by bottles. There are photographs which prove it. Well, she then, and my latest information, I won't go on about the whole history of it. I'll limit this because otherwise I'll go on forever. My latest information is that she is on the medical treatment. Supervision was the word I was told, as is Ryan Reynolds, because they're shades of Haman the Agagite. They're carefully laid plans for Justin Baldoni to swing from the gibbet. Looks as if they're going to be the ones who are going to be taking lessons in swinging. And justly so too. So evidently she is, I was told that she's under medical supervision because she's about to crack up or is cracking up, or to get her sympathy or not. I thought, and that he's also, Ryan Reynolds is also under medical supervision because the stress has reached him. And it's sort of obvious it has, because there were photographs of him taken in New York, I think a week or two ago, where he looked as if a bus had run over him. Well, good. They deserve every bit of it. And I also have to commend Candace Owens, Perez Hilton, Megyn Kelly, Dan Wooten, all of whom, people whose names I am afraid I don't remember, have been, but people on social media have been running with the facts. Candace Owens was told facts that she put on her show that were incorporated by Justin Baldoni's lawyers in the updated complaint, including about the timeline of the photographs that were used in the New York Times article, which is evidently a total stitch-up and set-up. Well, of course, the New York Times has come out and said, oh, no, it's not that. That's not, oh, you've totally misunderstood. Oh, no, 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 we're perfectly innocent. Yes. And pigs fly. I actually think if Brian Reynolds and Blake Lively are under medical supervision, I don't give them 1 ounce of sympathy. They deserve everything they are enduring because they tried to destroy Justin Baldoni's life and ruin his career and the career of several other people. And they hijacked and plotted and schemed to hijack what was not theirs, the movie. I have been the victim of too many manipulative people to have any sympathy at all for people who find themselves caught in the vice of the screw that they were putting on vice-like onto someone else. So, I think that's enough for today. If you want to hear more, I'm perfectly happy to delve into it at some other time. And also, at this point, I'd like to say, Clarice, here's the photo of the portrait. Funny world, isn't it? That little me from 1981 would have been doing something to assist Erin Pizz's refuge, and that the Baha'i faith was so immersed in this, I cannot tell you. It wasn't only Joyce Devlin. Loads of other Baha'is were involved with this. And if Justin Baldoni had not been a Baha'i, living, practicing his faith, I don't think the movie would ever have been made. We owe Justin Baldoni something. The man has a conscience. The man has scruples. The man has had his work of art snatched from him by a very inappropriate, greedy, malicious, conniving, false accuser. Because there is no way that he can be guilty of any of the things she said, and because of her behavior. Because if he is guilty of what she said he did, why was she 3 weeks, 6 weeks, 2 months later embracing him figuratively as well as literally? It doesn't make sense. Why was she letting him hold her child? Why was she asking him into her trailer while expressing a milk? Her story doesn't make sense. It's very Megganian. These women need to be stopped, just as how men of that ilk, Ryan Reynolds, I hope you're listening, although I know you wouldn't be, they need to be stopped as well. Harry, word to the wise. Well, there's the photograph of the portrait. It hangs in the state dining room at Castle Goring. Beside it is Faith, one of the Reynolds cartoons for the stained glass windows at New College, Oxford. So, without further ado, I plunge in with what Helena Goston says. I am surprised that you haven't been sued for calling Lily those horrible names by her family, who are very extremely wealthy and could leave you penniless! Exclamation mark. Lily was an upright and righteous person. Pigs flying everywhere today. In fact, we even have a pig with lipstick flying. Well, I'm going to continue. She's incidentally speaking about Lily Safra. She doesn't mention the name Safra once. She donated an incredible fortune to countless charities! Exclamation mark. Lily for years was taken to court by her second husband's family, and she was proven not guilty! Exclamation mark. Alfredo Monteverdi committed suicide because he suffered from a bipolar disorder. It is all recorded in the English Court of Justice! Exclamation mark. Also, she loved her last husband, Edmund Safra, and was totally devoted to him! Exclamation mark. You are playing with fire! Exclamation mark. Helena Goston, first of all, you don't know what you're speaking about. I know what I'm speaking about because I got my information from Alfredo Monteverdi's sister and her daughter. Don't think that I was going to do anything without knowing what I was speaking about. I also got information from Joseph Safra, Edmund Safra's brother. Lily Safra bumped off, and I'm not afraid of the family. They could have every single penny on earth. They can't do a damn thing with me, because the fact of the matter is you can't defame the dead. So they have no course of action. Now she's dead, and when she's alive, she had no course of action either, because she got my book, Empress Bianca, shut down, and I then sued her. Not the other way around. She didn't sue me. I sued her. Rosita Fanto, Freddie Monteverdi's sister, made it her life's business to block Lily Safra. And when I discovered what Lily Safra had done, I discovered it initially through, well, I'd been reading about it in Vanity Fair. Dominic Dunn had been writing about it. And a great friend of mine, who was a great friend of Christina's, said, oh, you should write a book on this, because you know that is Christina's uncle. So and that's how the whole thing started. And in fact, I wrote the book based as well on a cousin of my father's, a distant cousin, who killed her two lovers. Lily Safra and Edmund Safra organised the death of Freddie Monteverdi. If I remember correctly, they paid somebody in Brazil, and in case he's alive still, although I doubt he would be, but just in case, I'm not going to say who it was, a very influential member of the government who could stop the investigation, $30 million. This was in, I think, 1968 or 69. And it was duly stopped. Rosita was told she had to get out of Brazil, otherwise they were going to get rid of her. Lily Safra and Edmund Safra thought that he had discovered that they were having an affair, he being Freddie Monteverdi. He didn't know they were having an affair. She had discovered that he was going to divorce her. He was going to his lawyer on, say, the Monday, and he was bumped off a few days before. I don't remember the exact days now, but 2 or 3 days before he was, and she picked up the phone and heard him telling Rosita, who was living in Switzerland, that he had discovered that Lily was a fraud and a phony, because he had thought Lily was goodness personified, is what he used to say. And he had discovered that she was a pathological liar and a total phony and fraud. And he discovered it over her pretending to cook for him, which was a huge thing in that sort of world where women of that stature never did know how to cook. But she was so nurturing and so loving and da-da-da-da-da. He discovered she was buying in the food from restaurants. That's what broke up their marriage. And he then is supposed to have dispatched himself twice, not once, twice, using the wrong hand and no, whatever it's called, gunpowder residue on his hands. What? He shot himself, jumped up, washed off everything, then went back and lay down. Yes, of course, that's how it goes, yeah. And then, when Edmund Safra developed Parkinson's and became an inconvenience, the day of his death was the only time she stood down all of the security. I was in Monaco for the trial, or one of the trials, I should say, of the nurse. I was there with Dominic Dunn. I was there with Michael Griffith. Mike was the nurse's lawyer. As Rosita said to me, well, she dispatched one husband with murder by suicide and the other one with suicide by murder. That's what Rosita said. And Joseph Safra was determined that she wouldn't get away with it, and she didn't, because Dominic Dunn and I, and then Isabel Vincent, who is a Canadian writer who wrote a very good book on the Safra murder, she Dominic and I, but initially it was just Dominic and I. We first, it was Dominic first of all, then I, so to speak, joined the club, and Dominic and I decided we were going to make absolutely sure that there was no way that Lily Safra would achieve her ambition, which was, having got rid of Edmund Safra, she was going to buy her way into being a royal princess or a duchess. And she was going to upgrade herself. Well, she did give away an awful lot of money, and she had impeccable taste. Also, I should say, my cousin Tony Acevedo, as was, knew Lily and Edmund very well. She used to go and stay at La Leopolda. So, sorry, sweetie pie, you don't know what you're talking about. Lily Safra was the personification of evil. And what she did to her son's wife, and not to mention what she did to Freddie Monteverdi's first wife. Sorry, I'm not afraid. First of all, you can't defame the dead. And secondly, did she sue me for libel when she was alive? I don't think so. Because Lily Safra knew that I would get her into a witness box, and she couldn't lie her way out of it. She's obviously lied her way with you, but she couldn't lie her way with me and my lawyers in a witness box. I have nothing to fear about getting people in witness boxes when they're guilty as sin. They're the ones who don't want to get into witness boxes. So, I think that's enough for today. And I don't regret having helped Rosita, whom I actually ended up being extremely fond of, and Christina. And you speak about the fact that she was found not guilty. That lawsuit, that case was an absolute scandal. And if you think that it was anything but a scandal, you clearly don't know what you're talking about. But I do. But I don't know who's alive and who's dead in terms of the lawsuit. I know what I was told. And I saw all the papers. Well, not all, but many of them. Don't think that justice is always just, because it isn't. And fortunately, Mickey is blissfully unaware of all of this and is giving us nice life-enhancing tunes to accompany this rather dreadful story. But Lily Safra, in my opinion, was the personification of evil. So, Helena Goston, take that and chew on it. Okay? Thank you very much. Godspeed, and I hope everybody has enjoyed this. Presumably, of course, Helena Goston would not have, but I hope everybody else did. And on that note, I say thank you very much for listening. I hope this has been of some interest to you. If it has, please keep the questions and comments coming in so I will know what you would like us to be speaking about. Thank you so much. Take good care and Godspeed. And if you have truly enjoyed this, would you care to like, share, subscribe, press the notification bell, and abiento. Bye-bye.